UFC 287, Pereira versus Adesanya 2 takes place in only a matter of hours, and I'm going to go through my last minute detailed prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card. I'm not just saying who I believe is going to win and why. I did that earlier this week. I'm trying to predict how every single fight on the card is going to go, what limb will be used for a KO blow, what submission will be achieved if there is going to be a submission, what the scorecards are going to read if it does go to the scorecards, and just how every single minute of every single round is going to play out. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of, I can't open it up, and it is Jaqueline Amorim versus Sam Hughes. Oh, who cares about this one? Jaqueline Amorim versus Sam Hughes. Well, I know what I'm going to pick in this matchup. I'm going with Jaqueline Amorim by first round submission. I think that maybe they'll scramble a little bit early on. Maybe Jaqueline Amorim will have Sam Hughes up against a cage after a bit of a scramble where Sam Hughes ends up back on her feet and tries to knee the body of Jaqueline Amorim in the clinch. And then Jaqueline Amorim, I think, is going to get like an inside or an outside trip, end up on top in half guard. And as Sam Hughes is getting back up to her feet and scrambling or turning her back, I think Jaqueline Amorim is going to take the back position, land some good shots, be on the back standing, and eventually get a rear naked choke over Sam Hughes in the first round. I'm going to go with a first round rear naked choke for Jaqueline Amorim over Sam Hughes. She takes the back as Sam Hughes tries to get back up to her feet. We start moving on to Shayilan versus Steve Garcia. Shayilan Nuerdanbieke, I believe his name is as well. They've done him dirty there with the shortening of the name because he has a much longer name. Shayilan Nuerdanbieke. I'm going to go with Shayilan Nuerdanbieke by 29-28 decision. I think that's how I'm going to go with this one. I think maybe Steve Garcia could give him some problems in the matchup, maybe early on, or I think later on is maybe when he's going to be able to do some decent work, but I just don't think it's going to be enough in time. I reckon Yilan Shah is going to go out there, get the first round down to the ground, end up on top of Steve Garcia, maybe take the back, and just end up in a bit of a grappling situation non-stop for round one. Little bit of a trade early on in the feet, so maybe for the first minute of the first round, they're both going to be swinging shots back and forth on the feet, and Shayilan will get the better of that. He's a little bit quicker than Steve Garcia. Maybe he rocks him for a second and then shoots for a takedown afterwards. There'll be a lot of this fight where Steve Garcia is up on his feet against a cage, and Shayilan Nuerdanbieke is going to have a body lock against a cage, kneeing the thigh over and over again. I think the second round will look a little bit more similar, but it's going to be a little bit more competitive on the feet. Both guys landing good shots, but a takedown being a difference maker. And I think in round 3, both guys start the first minute real good. Shayilan gets another takedown, but Garcia gets back up and does a much better job separating, and then has a pretty decent third round on the feet, beating up Shayilan a little bit, but doesn't get the 10-8 round, so loses 29-28. We move on. Up the card, Ignacio Bahamondes versus Trey Ogden. I'm going to go with Ignacio Bahamondes with a guillotine or a dash choke. I think he's got really good reactions to people shooting in takedowns, and I think that he's going to have Trey Ogden in some issues on the feet, with front kicks to the body, with leg kicks, with straight punches. Maybe Trey Ogden will land a shot here and there, but I think that Ignacio Bahamondes is going to do a really good job of managing the distance, landing shots at range, picking at Trey Ogden at range, really frustrating him, hurting him with some front kicks to the body, trying to go with the front kicks to the head, but not many of them are going to land. I think eventually Trey Ogden is going to shoot a takedown in the first round, maybe. Not quite get it. Maybe end up on top for a second and Bahamondes gets right back up to his feet. But then in round 2, I see Trey Ogden shooting a bit more of a sloppy takedown. He's getting his legs chopped up. He's getting a jab in the eye non-stop. Body shots are starting to land from Bahamondes with front teeps to the body and stuff like that. He's going to shoot a worse takedown from a bit out in the open. And I think we're going to see Ignacio Bahamondes latch up a guillotine against the cage and get a second round submission over Trey Ogden. We move on. Up the card, Cynthia Calvillo versus Lupita Godinez. I'm going to go with Lupita Godinez. Obviously, I'm going to go with her. It'd be weird if I suddenly switched picks, but either way, Lupita Godinez, I'm going to go with her by 29-28 split decision. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I think she'll win the fight early on. Cynthia Calvillo will win the fight as it goes on. I can just see Lupita Godinez landing the crisper shots on the feet in round 1, getting takedowns here and there. Very competitive round in round 1, but Lupita Godinez is going to spend like the last minute of round 1 in top position, landing some decent ground and pound here and there. Round 2, similar situation, pretty even on the feet, but Lupita Godinez is landing the better, cleaner shots, even if Cynthia Calvillo is keeping up activity-wise or maybe even out-activitying Lupita Godinez. But then Godinez will mix in takedowns. Cynthia Calvillo will get back up, but Godinez will still mix in the takedowns and get like 2 or 3 in round 2, and that will be the difference maker in the round in terms of what the judges are going to go with. Round 3, I see Lupita starting to slow down a little bit, starting to get a little bit desperate early on with some takedown attempts, and then Cynthia Calvillo start to come back towards the end of the round and get the better of the stand-up for the majority of that round, like the last 3 minutes of it, earning herself a loss by 29-28, close decision. Round 2 will be a bit of a toss-up in my opinion. We move on. Up the card, Karl Williams versus Chase Sherman. I'm going to go with Karl Williams, and I'm going to go by maybe a really, I don't know what I'm going to go with it by. TKO, like a really uneventful, weird, fat heavyweight TKO, if you know what I'm trying to get across there. I just think that Karl Williams is going to keep taking down Chase Sherman. Both guys are going to land shots early on the feet. Maybe Sherman will start backing him up, looking to pressure him, and then Williams will get a good takedown. I do like the takedown ability of Williams. I think he's got good technique in that department. So I think he will get down Sherman. Sherman will take a beating on the ground for a bit. Williams will start losing a bit of motivation in his shots. Maybe start to slow down himself to where he's not really able to finish a fight by KO in that position. And then maybe Sherman will survive that round on bottom, landing punches off of his back like a usual fat heavyweight would. And then round 2, I think we're going to see Karl Williams getting takedowns again against the cage, dragging Sherman down, Sherman working back up, Williams drags him down again, Sherman back up, drags him down again, Sherman back up, Williams drags him down again, ends up in top, ends up in half guard, landing good shots on top. Not too many good shots towards the end. They start losing their venom, and then we see Sherman give up mount, eat more big shots, Sherman give up his back, Williams pounds him out as Sherman's trying to like cover up and fight and show the ref he's good, but he's not defending himself against these little baby shots. So Williams wins by TKO at the end of round 2. We move on. Gerald Meerschaert versus Joe Pyfer. I think we're going to see a Joe Pyfer decision is what I think we're going to see in this fight. I've been thinking about this matchup a bit and watching a lot of Gerald Meerschaert's recent fights. I think Meerschaert might shoot takedowns and get out scrambled in moments. I think it's going to be pretty even on the feet. I think there's going to be a power advantage for Joe Pyfer, and I think that's what's going to make Gerald Meerschaert shoot a bit. And Meerschaert's going to be getting backed up a bunch in this fight as well, so he's going to shoot a little bit more expectedly for Joe Pyfer. He's going to be able to see it coming, a little bit more predictable from Meerschaert in this fight. I do think Meerschaert will do well on the feet though, land some good shots of his own. Pyfer will land the better shots. Rock Meerschaert in round 1, go for him, sprawl a takedown, land some good shots towards the end. Round 1 over, Pyfer had a good first round. Then I think Meerschaert's going to be a bit out of it, a bit off timing, losing it a little bit, not really getting great takedown attempts. And I think it's going to be Pyfer just minorly outstriking him on the feet, landing better shots as well. And then Meerschaert shooting a takedown. And then Pyfer sprawling it, like taking back position, ending up on top in half guard, and just sort of cruising out the round, landing elbows now and again. And I think he's going to do the same thing in round 3. So I'm actually going to go with Joe Pyfer by decision. 30-27 is what I'm going to pick. I don't see a first round KO. He is dangerous, but I will go with Pyfer by decision. I think he can ride out top position here, because he does have really underrated grappling. We move on. Up the card, Michelle Waterson versus Luana Pinheiro. Really dull, boring fight. I know. Crazy how I could predict that one coming. Michelle Waterson, Luana Pinheiro. I think we're going to see a classic Waterson snooze fest robbery steal of a decision. Not a robbery, actually. Just like a stealing the decision without it being a robbery, if you know what I'm saying. Like, she does things to make the judges look like she's won in a fight where not much is going on, I think is what we're going to see here. And I think it's going to be very reminiscent of Michelle Waterson versus, I'll try and remember the fight that she had, where she had this kind of game plan. No, it wasn't the Esparza fight, was it? I'm not sure what it was. Maybe it was the Esparza fight, but Esparza did it to her. I think we're going to see Waterson get like a takedown at the end of a really not much going on type of round. Both girls landing shots on the feet, both trading with each other, being very even, and then at the end of the round, I think that fight IQ and experience is going to kick in for Michelle Waterson, and she'll get a takedown at the end of each round. And I think that's what's going to secure the decision. So that's what I'm going with for Michelle Waterson. I'll say 29-28, really close fight. Maybe one of the rounds, Pinheiro gets a bit better of her. Maybe in round 1, Pinheiro wins round 1. But then Waterson's going to have even round 2 and even round 3. But end the fight on top, landing nothing blows from full guard. So I'm going to go with Michelle Waterson doing that. We move on. Up the card. Chris Curtis versus Kelvin Gastelum. I think it's going to be a war, but I think Curtis is going to have the much cleaner and more powerful work on Kelvin Gastelum. In fact, I'm going to say Curtis finishes him in round 3 now. I'm thinking about it in my head. I think Curtis will finish him with a body shot in round 3. Kelvin Gastelum is fat, okay? He's not in the best of shape, and he has got a good chin, so I don't see Curtis dropping him or KOing him, but I do see him landing those body shots. So I think round 1 is going to be very good from both. Kelvin's going to fail a few takedowns that he tries to mix in. Curtis and him are going to be landing big shots on the feet against each other. Maybe Gastelum hurts Curtis for a second and Curtis regathers himself and stuns Gastelum for a second and Gastelum regathers himself, and it's going to be a great first round. But Curtis is going to be mixing in those body kicks, is what I think is going to happen. Those body shots. With the left hook to the liver, right hand to the body as well. And I think that's going to be a stark difference in the first round. Gastelum going for the head and shooting takedowns, but failing them. Curtis going for the head, but also landing some good body shots. Round 2, both guys end up doing the same thing again. Very similar round. Both guys landing good shots, but Curtis is digging to the body, and we're starting to see Gastelum like shake out his arms a little bit as he moves around and try and get his footwork going a little bit more. Maybe Gastelum fails a few more takedowns, and Curtis turns it round and pushes him up against a cage and separates and rips the body a few more times. Starts pressuring Gastelum now. Now Gastelum's on the back foot towards the end of round 2. Round 3. Gastelum gives it his all, tries a really hard takedown at the start of round 3, trying to mix it up after some stand-up early on. Curtis stuffs it really well. Gastelum gave it his all to get the takedown. He's starting to slow down a little bit now. He's feeling the body shots. Curtis still swinging. Gastelum swinging back. They're going crazy. They're scrapping it out. Boom. Liver shot from Chris Curtis. Gastelum goes down. Curtis finishes him off against a cage at the end of round 3. Middle of round 3. Chris Curtis gets it done. We move on to the main card, Raul Rosas Jr. versus Christian Rodriguez. I'm going to go with Raul Rosas Jr. by late second round submission is what I think is going to happen in this fight. I think Christian Rodriguez, initially I thought this was going to be a decision, but I don't like the bad weight cut from Rodriguez. I really don't like that. The fact that he missed weight as well and looked terrible on the scale and took so long to weigh in, I don't like that. So I'm going to go with Raul Rosas Jr., late second round face crank submission is what I think I'm going to go with him for. I think Rodriguez will be doing well early on. I think he'll land some good shots on the feet early on and maybe stuff a few takedowns, but Raul Rosas will start landing some shots back. Rodriguez is thinking about the takedown. Maybe Rodriguez shoots on Rosas and Rosas sort of like stuffs it, ends up back on his feet, pushes up Rodriguez against a cage, shoots down for a double and gets it, ends up on the back of Rodriguez as he gets back up, but Rodriguez defends well and gets him off of his back and stands up and separates against a cage after Rosas tries a few submission attempts. Then Rosas will shoot for another takedown, end up on top, pass over to half guard, land some little total strikes of damage on Christian Rodriguez. Rodriguez tries to back out of it. Rosas takes mount for a second, but Christian Rodriguez scrambles, gets back to half guard. Maybe a threatening of an arm triangle happens in round 1, but Rodriguez stays out of it. And in round 2, more scrambles. Rosas is starting to get a little bit better of it on the feet. Rodriguez is starting to slow down a little bit. Rodriguez shoots in again. Rosas stuffs it. Turns around the clinch against a cage, knees to the thigh, back position, he's got it, he's kneeing the thigh of Rodriguez, he drags him down to the canvas, Rodriguez back up, drags him down again, jumps on the back towards the halfway point of round 2, spends a long time on there, ends up on the ground on the back, landing total strikes and punches and significant strikes. Rodriguez doesn't really give up the choke, but Rosas just sort of sinks it in over the jaw and makes Rodriguez tap to the squeeze of it. So that's what I'm going to go with. We move on to Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. I think we're going to go with Kevin Holland by second round TKO. Straight right hand. Boom. Right down the pipe on Santiago Ponzinibbio, and then Holland finishes him off on the ground afterwards, is what I think is going to happen here. I think it's going to be a good fight for Ponzinibbio early on. But there's going to be moments where it's like, oh my God, Holland rocked him. Oh my God, Holland just tagged him with a big shot there as well. That's what I think is going to happen. But Ponzinibbio is going to be getting the better of it. I think Ponzinibbio is going to be attacking the leg in round one, landing good jabs, landing good shots to the body, more attacking of the leg on Kevin Holland. Maybe he'll kick the body a few times. But then at one moment in the middle of round one, Holland will tag him with a right hand as he goes for a kick. Whoa, he goes wobbly for a bit, has to cover up. Holland rushes forward, looks for big shots. Can't really land the ones that he wants to, and Ponzinibbio resets himself, shoots a takedown. Holland threatens something off of his back, and Ponzinibbio stands up and kicks his legs while Holland's on the ground. Holland gets back up to his feet. Holland's still on the feet, looking for his shots, lands another big shot at the end of round one and stumbles Ponzinibbio for a bit. So I think it'll be a good round for Ponzinibbio, but Holland will rock him in some moments. Round two, I think Ponzinibbio will try grapple early on. Holland might stuff it, end up on the floor, but get back up. Separate, move away. Ponzinibbio getting a little bit more predictable in what he's going for at the moment. Both guys landing shots. Ponzinibbio still landing that leg kick on Kevin Holland over and over again. Landing those jabs, and then Holland just times him going for another leg kick. Boom. Straight right hand. Rocks him really badly until he stumbles down to the floor. Hurt badly. Holland jumps on. Half guard. Big shots. Elbows. Punches. Holland gets the finish in round two. Towards like the 3-minute point of round two. We move on. Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. I'm going to go with Adrian Yanez by... God, I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of finishes, eh? I'm going to go with Adrian Yanez by... What do I want to say Adrian Yanez gets it done by? Yanez gets it done by TKO. Yanez gets it done by decision, I think is what's going to happen here. Font is going to survive Yanez, is what I think will happen. It'll be a great fight. Yanez will be absolutely battered in the fight as well. Font will get the better of the fight. Round one, he's popping the jab. He's landing a bunch of shots and like, come on, Yanez, wake up a bit. I'm teeing off on you here. And Yanez is having a bit of trouble in the fight, getting into it, but he's chopping at the leg of Rob Font. Font's mixing in takedowns that Yanez is stuffing and getting out the way of and getting back up from. Font's really teeing off on Yanez, but Yanez is sort of like taking the shots as the power's not quite there from Rob Font, and Yanez is starting to get his range towards the end of round one, jabbing with Font, landing good shots back over the top of Font's jab and cracking him a bit. Round two, I think Font is going to try and wrestle a bit more, mix it up a bit more. Yanez is going to show off good takedown defense, turn around the clinch, separate, has Font up against the cage, rips the body a few times, chops the leg, lands to the head. And I think Font's going to be doing good in round two, getting his jab back out there, landing good strikes. And I think Yanez is going to rock him in round two. Rock him badly, hurt him a little bit. Font's going to try and shoot in, hurt badly. Yanez separates, hurts him again. Rob Font goes down for a bit, but he's still trying to come up on a single leg and staying in the fight, holding on to Yanez. Yanez is trying to land ground and pound, separate. Maybe he gets a dominant position on top for a second and ends the round there. Yanez wins round two after losing the majority of it. Round three, I think Font's going to get right back to doing his good work, but Yanez is going to go tit for tat with him a bit more now. Font's still going to be ahead on strikes, still going to be winning the round, but Yanez is then going to hurt him to the body. Font's hurt to the body. He shoots in a bad takedown. Yanez separates. Rob Font goes to his back. Yanez gets on top. Rob Font eventually ends up back on his feet after taking some ground and pound shots. Yanez is starting to pick him apart against the cage. Both guys scrap it out until the end of the round. Yanez wins the fight based on two moments in rounds 2 and 3 where he badly hurts Rob Font. Very Marlon Vera-esque. Yanez gets it done by decision. We move on. Up the card, Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. I think Gilbert Burns is going to drop Masvidal in round 1 and sub him. I think Masvidal, and maybe I'm bringing in ulterior things here outside of what I think is going to happen in the fight, but Masvidal's going to be landing leg kicks early, kicking at the arms of Gilbert Burns, leading with his kicks quite a bit. Burns is going to be trying to time over the top of Masvidal's jab, land shots over the top of Masvidal's jab, shoot a takedown that he gets, but Masvidal gets back up, and Burns might shoot another takedown that he gets for a second, and Masvidal gets back up, and then he shoots another one towards the end of the round and doesn't get it. And I think at the end of round 1, Masvidal's going to be trying to make sure he gets the round for himself and leading with kicks and throwing these kicks to the body and to the legs. And Burns is going to catch him over the top with a right hand. That's what I think is going to happen. Masvidal's going to throw a big body kick, lands on the elbow of Burns. Burns waits, uncorks a big right hand with his back against the cage, clips Masvidal on one leg, goes down for a second. Masvidal tries scrambling, but Burns gets right on top of him. Full mount, landing big shots. Masvidal tries rolling to get out of it, gives up an arm triangle and has to tap with like 30 seconds to go in the round. I think Masvidal's too focused on everyone else. I just saw him get into another altercation. I think he's going to get caught on the feet, trying to make sure he gets rounds that he's been taken down a few times in, which he's gotten back up from. That's what I think is going to happen. Big right hand from Burns, gets mount, Masvidal scrambles, gives up an arm triangle. We move on. Up the card, Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya. I think it's going to be very similar to the first fight, but Adesanya will fail a few more takedown attempts. That's what I think is going to happen. I think both guys are going to go tit for tat with leg kicks on the feet. Both guys landing them very good. Here and there. Pereira's checking a few of Adesanya's, winning the leg kick battle early on in round 1. Adesanya's landing a few more boxing combinations on Pereira. Both guys are landing body kicks here and there. I think Adesanya's going to try and be aggressive in moments where he has Pereira up against a cage and sort of try and throw and then shoot a takedown. I think Pereira will stuff it and then reverse the clinch and win the clinch position with shots to the body, knees to the thigh on Israel Adesanya and start really ripping the body of him and then separating and getting his jab going a bit more. Adesanya will win the boxing exchanges at range on the feet in round 1. Pereira will slightly edge the leg kick battle on the feet and the kick battle on the feet in round 1 as well. Very similar to their first fight, but this time when Adesanya shoots into the clinch, which also happened in their first fight, Pereira's really going to be ripping the body and stuffing the takedowns and kneeing him in the body. And Adesanya will try and do it back, but it won't have the same effect on Pereira as it has on Adesanya. Round 1 will be over. Adesanya's shot 2 times in round 1, hasn't got either of them. And they've gone tit for tat. Close round, but because of the work in the clinch towards the end, Pereira would edge round 1. I don't see him getting rocked in the last second of round 1. And because of that, in round 2, I think he comes out with a lot more confidence. He's a lot more there in his head in round 2, and where he won round 2 last time against Israel Adesanya, I think he's going to win round 2 by finish. And I think he wins the fight that way. I think he's going to catch Adesanya on the chin with like a straight right hand against the cage. And I think it's going to come from Adesanya being a bit aggressive, trying to go for the clinch, Pereira punching his body and winning the clinch and turning him around and kneeing him in the thigh and kneeing him to the body. Adesanya trying to do the same back, trying to go for little sweeps and trips if he can't get the initial takedown on Alex Pereira. And then Pereira's going to get his jab going. He's going to fake the left. Adesanya brings his hand up and turns that way to move out the way of it. And Pereira blasts a straight right hand that rocks Adesanya badly. He gets rocked for a little bit, tries to grab on in the clinch, and it's a very similar finishing sequence to the last fight, except this time Pereira slumps him badly and hurts him on the floor, and Adesanya goes down badly. Alex Pereira gets it done by second round KO. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.